Okay. The sky is not falling. It may feel like it a little bit. It may have felt like it later in that game yesterday in Houston, but all is well. Stand by, stand down as we calm you and talk what's going to happen in the next couple of games or what we think could happen. John Radigan here, Jeff Wilson in Houston, and you on board. We appreciate you. Of course, we appreciate the Queen Cat who put this all together for us, and it's the DLLS Rangers podcast. And Jeff, that was one of those games where you really do, and certainly some people do this every single game, but that was one of those games where you really dissect every decision made, and so there's plenty to dissect, which is what we'll do in the first segment here. You were there. You got all the post game answers, but it was a tough outcome. But let's break it down.
You're right, John, and it started out a little shaky with the defense there in the first inning, and but then the offense started to figure out the Jason Alexander, and it sure looked like they were um, in good shape there. And then another error. I thought, Josh Smith was charged with the error because his throw was in the
Yeah,
dirt, but
yeah,
Jake Berger's got to get that ball. And anyway, so runners on base, Rangers, Leiter gets the next two guys. Then the guy who replaced Jordan Alvarez, the best Astros hitter, makes like Jordan Alvarez and hits a two-run homer on a pitch that, was at the top of the strike zone. And Leiter said he that's where he wanted to put it. That's what the scanner report and all the video work he did showed him. That's where to throw it. So anyway, all right. So you're behind 4-3. All right, that's not the end of the world with this team. Uh, Seventh inning, you get two on, and Wyatt Langford hits a single to left, and Jonah Heim is the runner at second. Not exactly Usain Bolt, and so Tony Beasley's a waving him in anyway, and Jonah's out at home pretty easily with what would have been the tying run. So, you know, those are kind of the that was a big talking point after the game. Uh, why was Heim not pinch run for? Why did what did you think of the Beasley send? Why did Jock Peterson bat in the fifth? So there are a lot of reasons, a lot of things and they're all intertwined as it turns out. So
yeah.
just with all the moves the Rangers have to make throughout a game to maximize their offensive potential, um, they're not always going to work.
Of course,
I'll
yeah,
say that. Um, and there are times though when in a big game when they don't work, you got to be accountable for them. And we asked Bruce Bochy about him afterwards, and he wasn't very happy about it.
no,
If we're being honest, and
sure.
he's frustrated too. But you know he's working with a tough hand here. And anyway, so there's a lot to discuss. We can break it down
Yeah,
however you want.
yeah. So let's break it down, but let's first remind everybody that, oh, I'll be damned. The Astros have their own little rascals, right? I mean, every team's got a
Yeah.
few little rascals, and that's what Cole was for them last night. So, because he came through with another hit later in the game, you're right. He
Yeah.
was sort of channeling his inner Jordan Alvarez, and we'll get to updates on him, Alvarez, that is, and several others in the second segment of the show. And we'll talk about what this does to the standings and to the chase later in the show as well. So we want you to chat along and have fun with us as we break this down. So let's go to that first one. I suppose it's one of the earliest decisions in the game was the decision not to pinch hit for Jock Peterson in the fifth inning.
Yeah. And that in the moment I said it's the fifth inning. It might be too early for um, Bruce Bochy. Too early to start changing out, doing the line shift. And I saw Benny there in the chat or on Twitter yesterday. My notifications say, "Well, there's a runner in scoring position, so you got to do it." And I can see the argument both ways, and it's something I talked to Bruce Bochy about a couple weeks ago. I mean, how you know it's got to be tricky when to pull the trigger and when not. Um, so we didn't pull the trigger. Jock Peterson's strikes out against the lefty in 3 pitches. All right.
Yeah.
So that's one. And but anyway, the explanation that Bruce Bochy came up with was we were leading in the game, and I thought it was too. I wanted to save some options for later. So, all right, he explained it, and agree with it or not. The Rangers were still ahead at the time. He is correct.
Yeah, and then the decision, and I didn't see this discussed quite as much, and maybe it wasn't talked about at all. Maybe I'm the only one, but I did not agree at the time with sending Jack Leiter back out for the seventh, and then it, of course, proved to be, a problem. He had to come out after just facing two. Was that talked about? What was the thought process there?
It was talked about, and the Rangers were pretty shorthanded in in the bullpen. But Jack had also, with the exception of the cold pitch
Right.
there in the fifth, he'd been on a pretty good run.
He had.
He figured out what was bugging him in the first inning, and it seemed to be working out for him just fine. Now, um, I was surprised he went out, and I think that you know under different circumstances he would have been removed, but uh, Bruce Bochy said they were without 4 guys last night, and they had to get more out of their starter. So that's the explanation for that.
Okay, and again, those are some of those things that we don't know about even as we watch the game or consider. Also, probably the very first one would be, speaking of the Little Rascals, the decision of that he kept Osuna in the game, but he decided not to play either Hellman or start either Hellman or Freeman in the game. And I know we talked about this on the show yesterday. As guys come back, we're going to see less and less of those guys. But was Boch asked about that one after the game?
Not after, he was asked before by me, and
Okay.
and he said that he feels like you have to get these guys who are bench players at bats to keep them sharp for when they pinch hit. And you've seen, Hellman got a pinch hit yesterday, a pinch single, when he did bat, and you saw Dylan Moore hit a home run the other night in New York as a pinch hitter, and Rowdy Tellez got a hit last night, the day after he started a game in New York, and he had the big pinch hit also Saturday. So it's trying to keep these guys engaged and trying to have them at their best when they're called upon, because they're called upon every game. That's the thing, and you want them sharp and seeing a variety of pitches. So that's the explanation for that. I don't necessarily, I would have, with a right-hander pitching, maybe Osuna was the better choice there. Um, but it's still, you know, I would have at least liked to have seen one of Hellman or Freeman in the lineup.
Yeah, because again, Boch is well known for riding that hot hand too. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't a great matchup necessarily, but this guy's hot. I'm not taking him out of the lineup, and both those guys have remained pretty hot.
Well, Moore did steal, stole a base in that 3-run fifth, and then scored on the next pitch.
Yeah.
He's a guy who can do a lot. He's probably the best second baseman of who the Rangers have at this point. He won the Gold Glove utility uh, award last year, so he's pretty handy in the infield, and again he's quite a runner. So um, he probably does need to play. I get it. Um, because again, the Rangers, that's how the Rangers are operating right now.
Yeah.
It's 13 guys. Every position player is playing basically every day.
Yep.
So I can understand where the manager is coming from on that. But again, I are you taking out an energy piece? This team also has been running on these young guys' energy, and if they're both on the bench, um, are you hindering the team that way?
Sure. So why not pinch run Zeke for Jonah Heim
Well,
once Jonah gets?
um, yeah, Kyle Higashioka was available, and
Yeah, because
um,
he pinch hit, right? Didn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he could have caught, um, but just with I think with the substitutions, um, Higashioka was needed to hit for Peterson and be
Right.
the DH, because um, if you run for Jonah, it's basically a two player for one move, because at that point Higashioka has to be the catcher, or else your pitcher is going to have to hit the rest of the game. So that's why Heim was not run for, and it turns out Higashioka was going to bat after Langford. Peterson was due up against a left-hander, so it was going to be Higashioka. The deal is, though, that when Tony Beasley looked around, he saw Jock Peterson on deck, and he didn't see Higashioka in the dugout with the helmet on. So as he was making his decision on whether to send Heim, he's thinking, well, gosh, Peterson, who batted against the left-hander 2 innings earlier, is on deck to face another left-hander. What are our odds of scoring in a left-on-left matchup? Peterson versus the pitcher, who was Brian King. So that's another reason that also factored into the Beasley decision. So I don't think it would have been any surprise to the Astros to see a right-handed hitter in the on-deck circle. It seemed like it would have been pretty obvious that Peterson was going to be hit for there, and maybe Beasley should have connected the dots. But the fact of the matter is that um, all these moves, like I said, were tied together.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And look, there's a lot of decisions being made, on the quick. He looks, he sees, he go. Here's it all happens so fast. But yeah, so that's the reason that Jonah was sent. Now, Boats was asked about his thoughts on the send too. Correct?
Um, I don't know if he was asked, but he volunteered. I don't think anybody would have scored on that ball. and
Yeah.
so and so that kind of shed light on what he thought about it. And then the first question to him, once Laura Stickles had left, or the camera had been turned off, she didn't leave, was, so based on what you just said, you didn't think it was a Tony had the right send. And then Bochy was like, I'm not going to answer that. I don't want to second guess my guy. And we're kind of like, well, you just did. So, anyway, yeah, he wasn't very happy, Bochy.
No, and understandably, and obviously, it could just have been so different if they don't send him and you tie the score right there in the seventh inning.
Sure, and look, the decisions and everything that we've talked about, it all boils down to the two errors. I mean, those led to three unearned runs.
Yep.
That was half the Astros run output they didn't earn. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of where um, the trouble started. You can nitpick the decisions, and you can be right, you can be wrong. But look, if they don't make those errors, if the Astros don't score three unearned runs, and it's 3-3 after six or after seven, after the Rangers bat in the seventh. Um, does Jack Leiter go back out? If it's
Right.
3-3, does Tony Beasley send Jonah Heim? Does he hold him and say, "All right, let's let this one play out. We're tied. We're not behind. It's not as bad of a situation." So it all goes back to the defense there. and it's uncharacteristic because this
Of
is
course, yeah,
this is the top
yeah,
defensive team in baseball. They no
yeah,
team has saved more runs than the Texas Rangers.
yeah,
Um, it's just that it wasn't there last night at a time when they really needed it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, good, great breakdowns, Jeff. We appreciate you, answering all of the second guesses. Coming up next, more answers from Jeff, who is on the scene there in Houston as we talk about updates of various guys injured for both teams. That's coming next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, our friends in the daily picks world. Um, I just I do Prize Picks every day. I kind of got burned a little bit last night when Justin Herbert took a knee twice.
Oh, oh,
That cost me one, but that's okay. I still had fun following that game and making sure that he would get to his total, which he did, and then he didn't. But what they're doing now at Prize Picks is max discounts. And so at the start of each week, they pick a football player, an NFL player, and just basically all he has to do is get 1 yard. Now, this week it's Patrick Mahomes. Will Patrick Mahomes throw for more than half a yard?
yeah,
Well,
I think he will.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm saving that one for the weekend because I really am enjoying the NFL picks. You 2 to 6 players, more or less than one statistical category. Odds vary. You can get goblins, you can get demons. You gotta download the app to figure out what I'm talking about. But it's a ton of fun. And Prize Picks wants to help you. So if you download the app today, use the code DLLS, get $50 in lineups after you play your first lineup. That's code DLLS to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play.
Hey, and we want to remind you that our month of support of the Big Brothers Big Sisters continues. We're partners with them, so we're always in support of them. But this month, we want to pay particular attention to their needs. You can help them so much by becoming a big brother or big sister, but also it's even easier than that and less time consuming. All you have to do is hit the button where you would normally send a super chat, and you will be donating to Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're lagging behind the other networks in our ALLCITY universe. So let's do that. Let's step up. Let's sign up. Let's hit that button and help this wonderful organization that helps so many young people throughout our area, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Dallas. We are proud partners with them. Okay, so that Yordan Alvarez, incident where he scored and was one of the unearned runs, right? But that ankle, Jeff, that looking at that's not quite Joe Theismann, but looking at that thing in slow motion, that ain't for the faint of heart, man. It looked like that ankle went like sideways, big time. All he did was touch the plate.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that warning because I did not look at the replay, and I don't now intend on looking at the replay.
Yeah,
It was a weird situation because we're watching the ball and he didn't slide. It wasn't really a close play, but I bet he slides next time.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
all of a sudden Mike Maddox is going out to the mound and look over at the camera well right before the dugout, and Jordan Alvarez isn't even in the dugout yet,
yeah.
and he needed help to get there. I mean, it's not pretty. He was getting an MRI this morning. He's not going to play the rest of the series, I don't think. And that definitely will help the Rangers' cause. He's had a tough season with the thumb injury. He's gotten back and has been the great hitter that he is. A tough out. He walked there. The first batter was Pena, who got a hit, and then Alvarez walked, and then Correa hit the little nubber in front of the plate, and Jack, as he fielded the ball, slipped and decided to throw it anyway, and it went over Berger's head. Pena scored easily, so did Alvarez, but by landing on the plate and those spikes, Um, Bad thing happened to his ankle. So um, unfortunate for the Astros. And really it turned out to be, for a night at least, unfortunate for the Rangers because his replacement,
Yeah.
hit the 2-run homer and also had another RBI hit.
Yeah, that's and so yeah, I'm with you. We haven't gotten any update. You're not at the ballpark yet, but just looking at it, the chances of even if somehow it's just a sprain, there's just no way that guy's going to be able to walk on that thing today and probably not tomorrow. So much less run and do all the things he needs to do. And again, that favors the Rangers. So we'll see what happens there. The Rangers have a lot of, and that's one of the reasons, for your answer to the Jack Leiter question about starting the seventh. But there are a lot of updates there. Danny Coulomb, right?
Yeah,
Is he back? Is he going to be back today? Is that the thought?
that's the plan. I forgot to tweet that out yesterday, but yeah, Danny Coulomb, who was in the clubhouse yesterday, I kind of thought he might be activated yesterday. He was not, so he's going to be activated today. Chris Martin had an injection um, and is expected to be ready Wednesday. So he's one of the guys. I saw Natalie earlier talking about, you know, 12 games ago, suck it up, which I totally agree with Natalie. But the Rangers were shorthanded because of injury as well. So Chris Martin is not well, is on his way back. Danny Coulomb on his way back today. So that will help the Rangers out. And then Tyler Mahle will pitch in some capacity um, soon, probably the end of this week. Um, Had a real good rehab outing his last time out. Got up to 60 pitches, worked efficiently, and he feels better about where he is now. So um, that's the pitching injury update.
And so is Tyler with the team as well?
Tyler's here. Yeah, I would suspect that he ends up throwing a bullpen today, maybe tomorrow, depending on when the Rangers plan to deploy him. But and then it'll then you'll be there'll be the domino effect. Will that knock Jake Latz out of the rotation and into a long relief role, which isn't the end of the world. And honestly, they might be guarded with Mahle the first time out, so you might see as much Latz as you would Mahle, or maybe even more Latz than you would Mahle. So we'll see what happens there, but um, that is something to look at this weekend.
Yeah, and then as far as Chris Martin goes, was it the Botox injection? Is that what they did?
I assume so. That was what the discussion was, because it's not pain, so it wasn't cortisone. It was, the the Botox into the region that's compressing the nerves, and whatever Botox does, spread it out and allow some circulation and I don't know what charge to the nerve, I guess would be, get
Sure.
that thing firing again.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, we hear, Chris Martin had to leave because of numbness in his fingers and all that. Well, but that's caused by, it's consistent with that thoracic outlet syndrome
Right.
symptoms, right? Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why the shot is up here. Yeah.
Correct. And I
Yeah.
and I think, just talking to Dr. Max Scherzer so much last year, like he was
Yeah.
pinpointing where the needle was going in and things like that. So I think it's kind of the front of the shoulder, kind of the chest actually, where you get these shots.
So at the time of the whole blow up in the seventh, I just saw some things on the Twitter that I don't know if were true. Is Higashioka, was he hobbled at all?
I
Was
mean,
he?
he's been dealing with the sore hamstring
Yeah. Okay.
since the first month of the season, really. I mean,
Wow.
it's something that he had to manage, and that's probably one reason why Jonah has caught more than Higashioka. But Higashioka is available to catch,
Okay.
um, and um, you see him every day. He's not limping around the clubhouse or anything, but um, the Rangers are being cautious with him with that. Understandably so. I mean, he's been a productive hitter when, really ever since I'd say June is when things started to turn around for him. And uh, I that he's not on the injury report, as they say in
Gotcha.
football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. And Corey Seager, it seems like just from what I heard and saw that you tweeted and wrote this morning, he may be a little further away than we thought.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get a gauge on it. Um, but he was not with the team in New York. He joined them yesterday. Um, he actually walked into the clubhouse while we were waiting for our allotted time to enter. He then went out and ran on the field, but he hasn't, as far as Bruce Bochy knew then. Corey hasn't hit, he hasn't thrown, and it's still pretty sore. The surgery, the 3 week mark of the surgery is this Thursday. Um, and that's kind of the soonest that they thought Corey would return. Um, you know, uh, I think at some point he's got to try to do these things and see how sore it is to swing a bat, to bend over and pick up a ball at shortstop. He at least needs to try these things so the Rangers can get a barometer on when and if he can come back. I mean, I saw some people who were like, "Oh, well, this is a slow return from an appendectomy." I don't think you're supposed to return quickly from an appendectomy.
No.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is it's surgery. I mean, they did it laparoscopically, so the technology has advanced, but it's still something going inside your body and removing something, coursing through your abdomen because they don't enter on the side of the appendix; they enter on the opposite side and go that way, and go to the appendix. So it's minimally invasive, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt like hell. So
Sure. Of course.
I
Yeah.
I, I think that. I think he's going to try to give it a go, though. He's determined to.
Okay, we lost Jeff there, and we'll get him back, no doubt about that. But yeah, so he is. I mean, that's all the word we've heard is that Corey obviously wants to tough this thing out as much as he can. The other guy on that injury list the 4 week mark for Marcus Semien is actually on Friday, and he was diagnosed at the time of his injury with that broken foot. He was diagnosed or told that it would be a 4 to 6 week injury. And Marcus Semien has been steadfast about trying to return by the 4 week mark. That 4 week mark is Friday. And at this point, Jeff, Marcus has been able to do a lot more, obviously, than Corey, and maybe more than any of us would have expected by now. But what are you hearing about Marcus?
Sorry about the interruption. My good friend, potential spam, decided to call me,
Good. Thanks.
which
Yeah.
screwed the whole thing up. Marcus is swinging a bat. He took batting practice on the field yesterday. He is not running, and he is not going to run until the 4 week mark, which would be this
Friday.
Thursday.
Oh, is it
Well, yeah,
Thursday?
Thursday is when the injury occurred.
Yeah.
And the Rangers are off, and Marcus said, "I take my days off." So Marcus isn't going to run Thursday. So looks like Friday is when Marcus will first test out the running scenario. And again, um, the broken bone is not the concern. It's the Liz Frank,
Right.
whatever. What is that? A tendon? Whatever it
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
That's the concern, and the one that they're wanting to take as much time as possible without, I guess, the most minimum time, if that makes any sense. But Marcus is tough. Marcus plays through a lot of stuff that we don't know about. He said he's played through broken fingers before. Um, this guy's tough, and he wants to be back as well. So we'll see on that one. But it's looking like maybe the last series, optimistically, maybe the start of the postseason if the Rangers get there.
Okay. All right. So that's an update on pretty much everybody. Oh, one other thing. Sam Haggerty's been shut down, right?
Yeah, he's actually going to try to play tomorrow. I guess Round Rock is the only team that's still playing in the minor leagues. So, um, yeah, he's going to give it a shot. If he's still feeling something, then they're gonna pull the plug on that one.
Okay. All right. So there's all your updates. We've got more coming up as we now try to put last night's game and the 11 that are left into perspective. We talk standings and all those types of things next on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Yep, but don't miss this opportunity to join the supporters club. It's just another way to be a diehard, to be a true sports sicko, and it's a fun way to stay engaged with the extra content you will get only on YouTube and only if you are in the supporters clubs. There's two levels. There's the $5 level and the $15 level. You get some perks with that, like those emojis you see on the screen. You get a supporters club badge. It's just another way to be a badass. And so we're asking you to do that. John and I have already done one video that again only the supporters club folks get. And we're going to do another one here soon. Just more behind the scenes stuff, some stuff from our careers, some things that we're noticing, maybe some things that we want to see happen in the off season. So join the supporters club. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And don't forget, we've got a merch sale happening right now. You could get as much as 85% off of our merchandise right now. It's 20% off the entire everything. But then if you add it to what's already on sale, it's up to 85% off. So this is just a fantastic deal for some great merchandise. We are big, big fans of it. Today, I've got a little shirt on that's a shout out to Paige Beckers. It's my Dallas Wings shirt.
Oh, look at that.
Paige Beckers is the Rookie of the Year over there in the WNBA, and so congratulations to her. But yeah, you can represent that way very simply. Store.allcitynetwork.com. Get up to 85% off on our merchandise today. So last night's game, every game now has such huge ramifications, and it's kind of funny, Jeff. We always talk about, they all count one, and they do. But the focus, the attention, the tangible result type things seem so much more crucial at this time of year. Obviously, if the Rangers had won some of those one-run games, obviously, if they, as we've said a million times, if they had been even 5 games under 500 instead of 10 or 11, right? Everything would be different. So there were plenty of times to fix this. But at this juncture, man, they're all really, really important. And last night hurt because the best the Rangers can do is leave Houston behind the Astros by 1 game. Now, they will by then, because they have to win. If they win both of them, they've won one. They will have the tiebreaker over the Astros if they win just 1 game. But they really need to win 2. Here's the standings. They've fallen to 3.5 behind the Mariners, who were off yesterday, and they are now 3 behind the Astros.
Yeah, and baseball teams are still going to lose. It doesn't matter what time of year it is.
Sure.
And you're not going to win every game. And the Rangers have lost 2 in a row. Dadgummit, that stinks because the Astros, especially when you lose one to the Astros, the team you're directly in front of you, you're chasing and you hate and trying to track them down and all that stuff. But they're still gonna lose. All right, things are going to happen, and it's not going to work out. And again, this was an uphill climb for the Rangers anyway. They put themselves in this position. Now, the good news is they still have 2 more games to help themselves, to control their destiny, if you will. And then they can sit back and enjoy a potentially easy stretch in their schedule with the Marlins and a watered down Twins team to finish off the home schedule, while the Mariners and the Astros duke it out. All right, this is, it's still a position where they need help too. So again, not enviable, but not undoable. They can do this. It's just, anyway, back to the point. Teams are going to lose.
Right.
It's just baseball.
Right.
But the Rangers need to win these next two. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, to the extent that it seems, because Seattle has, the tiebreaker on the Rangers, like the division seems a little less possible. And I know they can't think like this, but we can, which is it almost makes you, when the next series in Houston starts, which is the Mariners and the Astros, and that's like, well, okay, so who's the lesser of two evils, right? Rangers fans hate both teams. But I think you become a Mariners fan there. And
Sure.
Because the division's going to be almost out of reach anyway, and the Astros are the team directly in front of you right now in that chase for the wild card. So yeah, go Mariners if they win the series or sweep the series. Good for them. And the Astros still have the A's on their schedule too, who are a team that needs to be reckoned with. So
yeah, and it's on the road in that goofy ballpark.
yeah.
And the Angels, that's who the Astros finished with. At least they're on the road, but boy, the Angels have some injuries, and
Yeah,
their rotation is just god awful. And
yeah.
I hope Ron Washington's heart can take it. He's with them now, and
Yeah.
I bet this is really hard for him to watch. But he's in observation mode, and I don't think he likes what he's seeing. But you never know what happens. That's why you play the games. Nobody expected the Rangers to do what they've done here in the last 3 weeks.
Nope.
And then when the Mariners leave, we've talked about this, leave Houston. Well, first they got to play the Royals, who
Right. Starting tonight. Yeah.
pretty good, and Cole Reagans is going to be back tomorrow, so that's a fresh wrinkle into that series. And then the Astros for the Mariners. Then they go home and play the Rockies, who are dreadful, and then they play the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Close out the year with the Dodgers, who have not clinched a playoff spot yet, who are fighting to win the division. I'm telling you, that series is going to be harder, potentially, than maybe even the Mariners thought. They might have looked at that at the beginning of the year and been like, you know what? By the time that series arrives, they're going to be playing their starters 4 innings. Everybody's going to be dialing back to get some rest for the postseason. That's not going to be the case. It looks like the Dodgers are really going to have to show up and play those games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And and that definitely helps. Certainly the Rangers' cause, but everybody behind the Mariners' cause right now. Because again, that's 3 pretty tough series. It really is. The Royals, they still know, they think they're in the hunt, and of course they are for the wild card. Obviously, the Astros are very much in the hunt, and then the Dodgers. So 3 out of their 4 are pretty tough. Here's the wild card race, and right now, actually, it's not on there, but the Guardians and Rangers are essentially tied, both 3 games behind the Astros. So, the Guardians were off yesterday. They start a series with the Tigers tonight in Detroit, but they gained a half a game, and they were only a half game behind the Rangers. Their records aren't identical, but the percentages say they're both 3 games back of the Astros. So it certainly puts the potential for a premium on that final series of the season, Jeff. But the Guardians have 2 series left against the Tigers, who
Right.
also are in we got to make sure mode, like the Dodgers are.
Yeah, I guess the Phillies clinched the East last night, so
They did.
the National League East, and the Brewers are on their way. They've already clinched a playoff spot, but everything else is kind of like, God, we gotta play well. There are no breathers. The Blue Jays are playing without Bo Bichette. They started their top prospect last night and ended up winning the game, but that's kind of where they're at. They're kind of hanging on a little bit, and the Red Sox and the Yankees are going kind of neck and neck. The Diamondbacks and the Giants are chasing the Mets. They're almost they're about to chase the Mets down. It's crazy. It's probably good for baseball,
I
the
agree.
parity and the interest, and this is probably what Rob Manfred cooks up in his laboratory late at
Yeah.
night, things like this. But um, it's fun. It's baseball's fun. September baseball, like Bruce Bochy said, is fun. It's what these players live for. Meaningful games in September, and the Rangers have some. And the next two are probably the most meaningful of the year.
Yeah, they really are. And it's interesting because, if it all fell out as it is right now, and it won't, but if it did, and if the Rangers figure out a way to win and take that final wild card spot, and you even mentioned this, I think, on Sunday, I got to start looking at hotel rooms in Seattle. That's your reward. You get to go to Seattle where you've won, what, 3, 4 games in the last 2 years?
Yeah,
So that's, yeah.
yeah. It's interesting because this weekend series against the Astros and the Mariners. Yeah, the Astros are throwing Valdez and Brown. All right,
Yeah.
they've lined up their best
Yeah.
for the Mariners. Gosh, it doesn't matter. It seems who the Mariners start. They're going to be pretty good on the mound.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if the Mariners win the division, and if the Rangers are the sixth wild card team, or the sixth team in the playoffs, the last wild card team, yeah, their reward is going to Seattle, where they just can't win a game. And then but again, you still, it's like the Red Sox. Well, if the Rangers are fortunate enough to pass the Red Sox, well, then they
Right.
get to go to Yankee Stadium. Okay. Well, they got swept there earlier this year. I don't know that there's you can't really get to choose. It's not like you get to say, oh well, we'll go play the Rockies. No, you
Yeah.
have
No.
you get, it's going to be tough. Whoever you play in the postseason is really really good, and it is a different beast though, and you never know how it's going to happen. The one thing I would be curious about as you kind of look ahead, um, it's looking like for the Rangers are planning on that last series being meaningful. Um, so that means that they will have, in all likelihood, Kelly and DeGrom starting that last series against the Guardians. Well, the playoffs, the wild card round would start on uh, Tuesday, so 2 days after the season finale. Would the Rangers have their two best pitchers available, or would they have to use them to get into the tournament? So there's just a lot of things, and now we're getting way too far ahead of ourselves, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. We
The
are.
only thing that matters today is 7 o'clock tonight, and so, but
Yeah. And let's
it,
talk about that. Merrill, we haven't
yeah,
mentioned yet, but Merrill Kelly takes the ball for the Rangers tonight. Jacob DeGrom tomorrow night. This is exactly how, Mike Maddox and Bruce Bochy and even up to Chris Young would have wanted it to be. You got your two best pitchers going on the games that are right now the most important of the season.
for sure. And Merrill Kelly, you can point to Game 2 of the 2023 World Series. The people at our sister station PHNX will tell you that this guy was the Diamondbacks' big game pitcher. If it was a big game, Merrill Kelly gave his best, and I would expect nothing less from him right now. He seems to be kind of in a groove. He gave up the back-to-back homers to start the game the other night against the Brewers, but recovered very, very nicely, and um, was pretty efficient, really getting through. What did he pitch into the sixth? Um, this guy knows how to pitch. All right, this guy's, and he's been in these situations before. He's not going to be too intimidated by anything the crowd or the Astros may try to throw at him. And then Jacob, I'm sure will not have a good feeling about how he performed last time against the Astros.
Right.
Um, my only thought there is, he threw 7 innings Friday night in a pressure cooker. I mean, that start was a different start for him now.
Hey,
Back
big time.
first time
Big
back
time.
at center field at City Field. I doubt he would have a letdown factor, but and maybe conversely, that's something that re-energized him. Maybe he's like, all right. that start. That was fun. I had a great time pitching in that environment like that. Well, that's what it's going to be like Wednesday.
Yep.
Especially if the series is on the line. Um, there's a chance for that to be a uh, something that Jacob would relish, a situation he
Yeah.
would relish, and kind of fight through any fatigue he might have or anything like that.
Yeah, awesome. So it's going to be really fun. September baseball, as Boat said, as Jeff just repeated, is very fun. And the next two games will be fun. Coming up next, it is our cleanup segment, and a couple of the topics we have mentioned already, we'll dive a little deeper into. That's next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But do you know about our newsletter? We want you to avail yourself to our newsletter. It's free. All you have to do is go to our website, and every day it's actually Ali Jawad who is now writing the newsletter, and it's a wonderful thing, and it just gives you all kinds of updates from each and every one of our teams, and it's absolutely free. We feel like we're always saying, do this, pay 15 for that, just 5 for that, $79.99 for that. Not this one, baby. It's completely free, and it just gives you a little bit more insight into what we're doing at DLLS and what we plan to do, and it just completely keeps you updated. So, just go to the site and find the button that says a newsletter, click on that baby, and the next thing you know, you're in the know for all the things that are happening with us and with each and every one of our beats, which is primarily the big four teams. But there are other things that we're covering too, and there are many things that we intend to cover. We had a big old meeting with the big boss out of Denver today, and everybody rightly very bullish on the company, and growth is happening, and we're going to continue to grow. And so get that newsletter and find out how and where we might be headed.
Yeah, and a lot of the newsletter uh, offers links to the things that we've been writing, those things that are behind the paywall, and those things that require you being a diehard to access. Let me tell you something. It's totally worth it. It's $6.50 a month. Now we charge you one time, $79.99 annually, but you get the access to all of our written content. You get discounts to us to our merch at store.allcitynetwork.com. Our events, you get special access to events such as meet and greets and watch alongs and things like that. So all you have to do is scan the QR code on your screen or go to alldls.com, where there are ample links to get you to become a diehard. And if you're not doing it, you're really missing out. We have boots on the ground at big places where you get stories like the one I wrote last night. Clarence will be on the road with the Cowboys. It's just so worth it. I can't stress it enough. So become a diehard today.
All right, so let's clean this thing up. Jeff mentioned the Phillies clinching the East last night, and I'll say this, Jeff. By the way, did you see who got the save in that game, Jeff?
I did.
Yeah,
Our old friend David Robertson.
David Robertson, and you know what? Good for him. And we of course wanted him back all off season, and hope that maybe he could come back even when word broke that he was trying to. But good for him that he got to stay out east, which is where his family is, and B, he still got it, right? He's still a
Yeah.
significant contributor. So good for him. That's a good guy who's just got so much experience and got to play this thing exactly how he wanted to, where
Yeah,
he didn't have to spend 8 months doing this, Jeff.
I wonder if other old relievers will try to replicate that. I mean, yeah, no, you're not going to give me the money you want right off the bat. Okay, let's see what my market looks like in 3 months, because teams are always seeking difference makers in the bullpen. And what's to say Chris Martin won't do that? Chris Martin, who's been injured, I
Right.
don't know, every other outing, it seems like this season. What if he takes off, avoids spring training, and then, come May, he starts ramping it up, and his agent calls some scouts and say, "Hey, you may want to look at this for the stretch run." And every team goes through bullpen injuries. and be like, well, we could add this guy, and it probably wouldn't cost too much, and we'd probably get a really fresh, motivated guy to go pitch for a winner, and kind of dictate the terms of when he plays. I think Chris Martin would be perfectly happy if he didn't play. I think David Robertson would have been happy if he didn't play, but and I guess that's the risk that they take. But man, it's not a bad way to go.
No, not at all. You get to sort of choose your own schedule in a way. I wonder if agents would be on board. They should be, right? Because look, agent, whoever you are, I can either retire or we can make money for a half of the year, right? But agents, of course, want to not only maximize what they get for their player, but that also helps maximize what they get for themselves financially. So I don't know if agents would necessarily be on board with it, but the fact that David Robertson is his own agent took that factor out of the equation.
Yeah. I you always talk about how guys hate spring training, or uh, you know, football players hate training camp and they hold out. And I mean, look at Micah Parsons, right? He doesn't play, and then ta-da! Oh, hey, he's magically ready to go and causing havoc. Emmett Smith back in the day when he held out. It's just guys can do this, and um, if you bring the goods, if you have the track record, and you show up for scouts and they're like, hey, this guy might work, then
Yeah.
hey, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Phillies, by the way, when they came through town, Jeff, I thought that's the best baseball team I've seen all season. Right now, they've suffered injuries since they were here, but that's a pretty good baseball team.
Yeah, the Wheeler injury is huge.
Yeah.
I think the thought is that Trey Turner will be fine, or will be okay for the playoffs, and he can do everything on the field. So that'll be a big addition for them. But they're pretty complete.
Yeah.
And with Duran at closer and Robertson in the mix, in addition to Orion Kirkering, who's a hell of a reliever.
Mm-hmm.
If they could really shorten a game down on you. um, Sanchez is a good pitcher. Suarez is a good pitcher.
Yep.
Aaron Nola's back, and he's a good pitcher. So um, they look pretty darn tough.
Yeah, I think they're going to be tough to beat, and we'll see. I mean, that's what the playoffs are all about. That's a lot of fun. Astros and Red Sox, beware. We kind of mentioned this earlier, but the A's, Jeff, they had that one stretch where they lost 20 out of 21 games, but they were over 500 in May, right? And then they had that stretch. They are over 500 since the All-Star break, and they just swept the Reds, who are fighting for their playoff lives, right? So they're better on the road than at home, but if you've got to play the A's yet, they've got that real spoiler mentality.
Yeah, and they have the rookie of the year winner, maybe the runner up. Um, they have the Brent Rooker, who can hit the ball a ton. Lawrence Butler, who's had a bad year but is a talented young guy. Soderstrom, another first round pick, who's a really really good player, and the catcher Langoliers, who is the American League Player of the Month for August. They can't pitch worth a darn, but they
Right.
can hit. And this team, we've said it before, with this group of position players, plus they got DeVries, a wonderful prospect from the Padres for Mason Miller. This team's going to score a ton of runs in the
Yep.
future. They are
Yeah.
going to be a difficult team to face, and to pitch against for years to come in the Rangers division. Maybe realignment can't come soon enough if you're the Rangers wanting to wanting to not see the A's for the next 6 years, because those guys are going to be tough.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I say, the Astros do have a series there at their place, so we'll see how that plays out. But I definitely think that they're a spoiler waiting to happen. You mentioned the Blue Jays' top prospect being in there, and that's Trey Yasevich, who pitched yesterday. And we can't show you the video of, first of all, that sinker that sinking fastball, splitter, I guess it is. Good heavens. That is unbelievable the way it drops off the table. He's like way up here in his delivery, so the ball looks like it's coming straight down at you. But the part of the video that you want to see if you go watch it was his dad's reaction when his son struck out 9 in 5 in his major league debut, and his dad's just bawling, and Sevich's brother is putting his arm around his dad, and it's not like his dad's like an ancient guy. I mean, he's, I don't know, maybe in his late 50s or early 60s. He's a regular old guy, but man, he just blubbering watching his son do that. I can't imagine that feeling, but they rightly are, beyond over the moon in Toronto to get a guy like this.
Yeah, and the Blue Jays have a real nice history of player development.
They do.
So that's good. But throwing this guy into the playoff race,
right?
And he absolutely responds. I think at one point he struck out 5 in a row. Yeah, and for whatever reason, I mean, I can think of the reason. It's hard for them to get free agents. It just is. They tried to money whip the hell out of Soto and Ohtani. They didn't get it. They probably overpaid on Vlad Jr. I don't know, to get him to stay, but so player development becomes an even bigger deal, or making smart trades and things like that. So if they can add a guy like this, they had Alex Manoah, who had the one great year, their first round pick of 21 maybe, or maybe it was 20, came up right away from West Virginia and was awesome, and now he's hurt and can't, is terrible. That's it. They need him to get back in shape too, and they haven't traded him away yet. But for a guy like this to come up and do what he did, I mean, they had Roy Halladay. It was kind of a similar thing.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Roy in his first major league start almost threw a no-hitter, and then was terrible the next year. They sent him to Florida to rework everything, and then he became a Cy Young guy.
Yep.
A Hall of Famer with the Blue Jays. They couldn't keep him, but it's important for the Blue Jays, and they're a good team. If they keep Bo Bichette, they have Dalton Varsho, who's a nice player. They can be tough for a while.
Yeah, and finally, it's a sad day for fans of the movie The Natural, and for basically all women my age or older, because Robert Redford was the heartthrob back in the day, and for my money, The Natural is the best baseball movie they have made, and Robert Redford died today. And anyway, the National Baseball Hall of Fame sent out a tweet. They've got, and I've seen it, and it's so cool, this display honoring the Knights, the New York Knights, and Roy Hobbs right there at the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. That's the kind of impact that movie had on society, Jeff. Roy Hobbs, Robert Redford in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's a great movie, a fun story. The book has a much different ending than the movie, but it's such and you hear the natural theme every time a Rangers player hits a home run.
That's right.
I mean,
that's right.
It's 40 years later. My favorite Robert Redford movie is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Fantastic.
It is my favorite. The Natural is in there. All the President's Men. I've only seen The Sting once, so I can't really say it's one of my favorite Redford films.
Yeah, I love The Sting too. Yeah.
Butch Cassidy is at the very, very top of my Redford list, and it's not even close. Yeah.
No, I agree. That's a good one. That's a great one, actually. So anyway, R.I.P. Robert Redford, and we thank each and every one of you for joining us. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be on after the game. It's a post-game edition after the series finale. It's Merrill Kelly tonight. It's Jacob deGrom tomorrow. So you're saying there's a chance. Oh, yeah, there's a chance. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast coming your way again tomorrow, post-game, sometime around 10 o'clock. We'll see you then.